Today, it's an absolute pleasure to have Jon Macaskill on the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course, it's a real honor. Jon is a retired Navy SEAL officer, spent 24 years in the Navy serving our country. He was in Afghanistan and Iraq, in Somalia, in Panama, and upon leaving the service, decided that he wanted to take what he learned in leadership and mindfulness to help people live purposeful and impactful lives. And it's a really deep honor. Jon is the author of Unleashing the Inner Strength and Men Talking Mindfulness. So definitely check those out. But thank you so much for being here. And personally, I just want to say thank you for everything you've done for the country and for your service and for your love of this country. It really means a lot.
Well, it was a unique honor and privilege to serve, and I I recently had somebody on our podcast, a fellow SEAL, and he had the best response for that. Thank you for your service, and he said, "Thank you for being worth it," and I love that. So, thank you all to your listeners, and for you, Gilad, for making it worth our time.
Wow, that's really beautiful. And I guess I'd love to go to the beginning of your story when you are about to start your service. What's on your mind and what are you thinking about and what's important to you when you're 18, 19 and jumping into this big world?
Yeah, I mean, what was important to me when I was 18, so I was 18 going into my senior year in high school, and I knew then that I wanted to be in the military. I had a good sense that I wanted to be in the SEAL teams, but I wasn't sure how that would go. But yeah, I think what drove me then was definitely a sense of service. I wanted to give back to the country that had given so much to me already. I was born in South Africa and moved to the States when I was 7. And I think that what I gained through living in the States from when I was 7 until now is tremendous. But at that point, I was between 7 and 18. It had given me a tremendous amount already. So I wanted to be able to give back. But I'll also say that there was a bit of ego involved. I wanted to be uh, involved in something big. I wanted to be involved in something that I could kind of beat my chest about. And, looking back on it, I'm not sure that that was necessarily the best reasons for doing what I've done, but it it led to where I am today. And I've definitely had a lot of deep internal work since then. And I see now that there were bigger and better reasons for having done what I did.
On the surface, though, being part of something big, even if it's about beating your chest, but you want to do something good, doesn't seem so bad. Why do you feel that's a poor motivation? Why have you reframed kind of?
Um, yeah, no, that's a good point. Thanks for phrasing it that way. I think there's a desire to do everything with a completely altruistic heart. Is that, hey, I'm doing everything for somebody else, and I could probably even say that today about what I'm doing. It's not all for somebody else. There's a big piece of it that is about me. I want to fill my cup. I want to feel as though I've done something here. I want to feel as though my life here was worth it. Kind of comes back to that "thanks for being worth it" statement. Uh,
Totally.
I want to, what did Steve Jobs say about his making an impact? I want to make a dent in the universe, something like that. Well, I might not be able to make a dent in the universe, but I want to make a dent in some people's lives, certain people's lives. And if I could do that, then yeah, I'm serving my purpose as well at the same time as filling my own cup. So yeah, I wish there was a way to say it was all altruistic. I think that would be the true hero. It's like, hey, I did it I did it all for everybody else. But in all honesty, I think there's a piece of it that was ego, and in saying that there's a little sense of shame, but it's human. So
For sure. And I think about Lincoln's quote when he's 23 years old and he ran for his first office and he fails to win. And he's really depressed and he says, I want to do something worthwhile of being remembered. He still wanted
Yeah.
to be remembered, but he wanted to do something good that was worthwhile, that was improving the world. But at its core, he wanted to be remembered. For sure he
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's, you know, we don't want to be forgotten. We want to be here during the time that we're here and then remembered by our friends and family afterwards. And what is the saying that you die twice, once when you physically die, and the next time when the last person that you know or remembers you utters your name. Yeah.
Is the legacy in particular that you think about leaving behind that you want people to remember you
Yeah.
for?
Yeah, I think certainly we all want to be kind of a good guy. We want to be remembered as that good guy. And when I say good guy, I don't want to be remembered as a nice guy. I want to be remembered specifically as a good guy. And the difference there is the nice guy, I think, is just being nice because they aren't brave enough to express anything different. The good guy is somebody who does things right and does the right thing, both of them together. So I want to be remembered as a good guy. And I think, honestly, when it really boils down to it, I want to be remembered as a good friend, a good husband, a good father, and a godly man. So yeah,
Absolutely. That's an important, big combination of
yeah,
living in the world, living in ourselves spiritually.
right,
It's a lot of domains, but being broad, you have that chance to have that impact across all of those spaces.
right.
And just thinking about, I guess, being a good father and teaching children, this idea of service, how do you pass that on? I mean, it's clearly been central to your life. Are
Yeah,
there active ways that you try to instill within your kids that life is more than the self?
yeah, yeah. An example: the other day we went to a rodeo, and at the beginning of the rodeo, they sing the national anthem, say a prayer, and then sing the national anthem. And we were walking as this was starting, and I was always taught as a young kid, you don't walk during the national anthem. You stop, pay respect. Same thing when you're saying a prayer, as you stop, you pay respect, you say the prayer. And I did that with my kids. And afterwards, they're like, "Why couldn't we keep walking during the national anthem?" I said, "Well, because it's a sign of respect for our country, and it's a sign of respect for those who have served and given to the country." I think that's the maybe the first little rock that I'm throwing in the proverbial pond, and the ripples will come from that. See where my kids go. I'm certainly not going to push them in any one way or another. And there's a part of me that almost doesn't want them to serve in the military.
How about
Like, as a father, I don't want them to put themselves in harm's way.
right?
But then if I separate myself from being their father and think about the fact that we need people like that, yeah, if they do end up choosing that, then I'd be very proud. But admittedly, there would be a little bit of fear.
For sure. I mean, it makes sense. It's only a human.
Yeah.
And having yourself gone through many challenges, physical, mental, emotional, is there one that stands out as the hardest one? And how you made it through, what you learned? I'm sure there are a lot of examples to draw upon, but
Yeah.
is the one that really
Well,
was
if when I get questions similar to this, typically what's expected is for me to pull something from the battlefield or from SEAL training, and I will say that it comes from neither one of those. The two ones that pop into my mind are, one, just generally being a parent. Being a parent is by far, to me, the hardest thing I've ever done. Leading little people,
forming them.
yeah, helping to form them, forming yourself at the same time, right? I'm in my late 40s, and I still feel that I'm a young man and still learning. I'm sure I'll feel that learning piece all through my life. Um, but, I make mistakes, and my kids see that, and they call me out for it. And, I lose my patience with my kids. I cry in front of my kids for some of the things that I've done. Maybe I've lost my temper to a point that wasn't appropriate for whatever I'm losing my temper for. Now, when I say not appropriate, I mean I'm not abusing them, but maybe they spill a glass of milk and I get upset with them. And it certainly wasn't something that they intended to do, and there's no reason to get upset. And then afterwards, after getting upset with them, then I start beating myself up and go into a downward spiral. And it's bottom line, parenting is infinitely harder than anything else I've ever done in my life, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And then the second thing had to do with being a parent. My eldest daughter, who's 8 now, when she was still in the womb, they identified what they thought to be a tumor on her liver. And at 6 months old, when she was 6 months old, they had to operate. And that was probably one of the hardest things I had to do. Was with my wife, we had to decide that we were going to be okay turning her over to a surgeon to be operated on. And there was a risk that she may not have made it. She did make it with flying colors. Now she's, like I said, a thriving 8-year-old. But, if we hadn't done that, she probably would not be alive today. But we had to take that chance. And that was scary for me. So I would say that 2 of the hardest things I've ever done, that's them.
Where do you feel faith has come in? Why either as being a parent or, this moment we have to make this decision regarding literally the life of your child?
Yeah. Oh, man. Faith has been a huge part in that. I never prayed during the surgery or prior to the surgery. I never prayed that, and this is going to sound odd probably to some of your listeners, but I never prayed, hey, I pray she makes it through this surgery. Because if it was, in my mind, if it was God's plan, she was going to make it through the surgery. If it wasn't, she wasn't. But I was going to pray. I prayed that his plan be executed, whatever his plan was. And thankfully, in my mind, his plan matched my heart's desire. As far as being a parent, I have to pray for patience daily. And I have to laugh when I pray for patience, and then my kids try my patience. I'm like, this is God's answer. This is God giving me patience, helping me to learn patience is through my kids. And here I am getting upset at them when I'm praying for patience. So I think God has a great sense of humor. Clearly, I love my Heavenly Father, but I have to laugh at his sense of humor sometimes.
And there's an idea in Judaism that God only gives the challenges which we can handle.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
in that same way, you're getting the challenge, but it's building you. And
Right. Yeah. And I've learned that lesson. I ran track and cross country growing up, and my coach, he pushed us way harder than we had ever thought that we could push ourselves, and we became better for it as individuals and as a team. Same thing with the going through SEAL training. We were pushed past our perceived limits, and we became stronger and better for it as individuals and as a team. And here, God is pushing me through my kids harder than I ever thought I could handle. And I'm complaining about it, and then praying to God, help me through this. And then I realize, oh, wait, this is exactly what I prayed for.
So what is the key to patience? How do we do it?
Yeah. What is the key? Oh, man, I think pausing, understanding where you are in life, what your day looks like, what your schedule looks like. This very morning, I was trying to rush my kids off to daycare because we send them to summer daycare because I work at home, so it's tough for them to be here when I'm working and then them not understand what's going on. Like, why are you at home? Well, because this is where I work from. But anyhow, I was getting them into the minivan. And yes, I drive a minivan, and I'm perfectly comfortable with that. Anyhow, I'm shoveling them into the minivan. I'm like, let's go. Kind of like that. I feel like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and maybe I'm dating myself here. You may not get this, but in not in Terminator, in Predator, he's like, just make it to the chopper. And that's how I feel. I'm like, just get in the van. And then I realized, wait, there's no bad guys chasing us. There's nothing on my schedule that is forcing me to get them there fast. It's, hey, slow down. So I think the answer is take a breath and slow down, and that can help to improve your patience.
Was your impatience in any way taught where you lived a life where things had to be on the clock and they had to be exactly at the right time? Like, do you feel like that was your nature before entering the military, or how did it change?
Yeah, I think both. I think I had that in me already, and then it served me well in the military. Was having that short patience. Like, they talk about having a sense of urgency in the military, and I definitely had that sense of urgency. And then it was further instilled in the military, which served me well in the military, but it doesn't serve me that well regularly as a parent. I think, if I needed to, if there was truly a time when I needed to act quickly and it served myself, my family, that would be great. But those are fewer and further between than the times when I just need to take a chill pill and relax.
Right. Which is the interesting thing about life is some traits are amazing assets in certain
Yeah.
situations. And then recognizing when you get to the other situation and saying, oh, I actually need different traits to be successful here, and building those.
Right. Yep, 100%.
One thing that I was really curious about was your track coach. So I love running. And I remember hearing you tell a story about how you didn't give your all in a race. And so on a Saturday, he took you to a hill and had you just run up and run up.
Wow, you've gone way back. Yeah, I think I put that out quite a while back. Yes.
Would you do that with your kids? Because I mean, sounds like it was hugely formative,
It
but also
was.
painful. And like, how do you think about that balance of building that grit,
Yeah,
building that determination?
I think there's people in your life that are going to build grit and determination in different ways, and for them it might be appropriate. I don't know that a parent going and running their kids up a hill like he ran me up that hill is going to work out. But yeah, I mean, that stems for your listeners, just to give a little bit of context. So I ran track and cross country in Ruston, Louisiana, growing up. Not a big town, not a whole lot of hills. We went and raced at this place called Mississippi College, clearly in Mississippi. And at the very end of the race, it's a 5K. At the very end of the race, it finishes on this uphill. And I didn't put into that last, 0.1 miles as much as I could have or should have. And our coach the next day, typically the day after a race, Sunday, was a kind of a recharge day, or I don't know, catch-up day. We still ran, but it wasn't intense. And we all met, and he took us down to the bottom of this hill and just had us run hill repeats over and over and over
Brutal.
and over. Totally brutal. And the lesson was, hey, give your all the time. That definitely was formative.
In that moment, though, are you like, wow, thank you, coach? Like, I really appreciate it. Or you're like, my coach is the worst.
No, absolutely, exactly the latter of the two. But now looking back, as a matter of fact, I think I just posted today about track and cross country. Another formative story was I was running with the team, easy run, and we're all good friends. And one of them said something kind of mean about my biological brother, and because I call my teammates my brothers, but one of them said something mean about my biological younger brother, and I turned around and just clocked him and put him down on the ground, and we ran back as a team, none of us talking, and we get back to the track, and somehow my coach already knew that this had happened, and he's just waiting there with his arms crossed, and he's like, I quit, and he walks off. Like, we would run from the track, run all over town, and then run back to the track, and he's standing there on the track, and he says, I quit, and he walks off. And for the next 3 days, he wasn't there for practice, so we had to just kind of do our own practice. The fourth day, so 3 days in a row, doesn't come. Fourth day, he finally comes back, doesn't say much, and he's back in coaching. And none of us said much. And it was just like this implied lesson. Hey, you guys are better than this. You guys are a team. If there's a conflict between you guys, work it out, but don't punch each other. and then the other lesson was, you guys can do things on your own. You don't need me here. I'm here to push you, but you're also gonna have to push yourselves without me. And that coach, I still call him coach to this day. Still stay in touch with him and the rest of my team. We're still very good friends. I still call him coach.
That's
to this day,
amazing.
30 something years later. And I'll always
He's a
come.
very wise man.
Yeah, yeah, he was. He is. He sure is. I love that man.
And just going back to the grit, teaching your kids. So maybe that's not for a father to teach, but it
Not in
sounds
that,
like
not in that way.
not in that way.
Yeah.
But compassion is. And how do you do that? How do you allow them to have really high expectations for themselves, to want to give their all, but to feel like they don't have to beat themselves up when something doesn't go their way?
Ew. Yeah. Really, it comes down to having a high standard for yourself and then not beating yourself up for yourself, setting that example. It's shown up in multiple ways in my kids. You know, the compassion piece when we're driving around. I live in Colorado Springs, and there's a significant number of homeless people, and my kids are always asking, "Hey, can we give them something? Can we give them some money? Can we give them some food?" They they want to help others out. They want to donate some of their clothes and their toys to Goodwill because they know that, there's others who could use them more. Um,
Silent.
they, they, my eldest who's 8, I've got a 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 4-year-old. She's always like, I don't know, if I kill a fly or something, she's like, "What did that fly do to you?" There's compassion for flies. So there's the compassion piece. As far as beating themselves up, there are times when honestly I kind of let themselves beat themselves up. And what I mean by that is I don't let them go into a downward spiral, but I let them reflect on what they wanted out of a situation and what they got out of themselves in that situation. And then I'm like, okay, well, could you have done more?
Is there an example that comes to mind?
Yeah, like my eldest, they I did not run track and cross country at a very young age. I ran it through high school. But my eldest, she runs cross country here. So as an 8-year-old and as a 6-year-old, she would run. It's a mile for a 6-year-old, which is still a
It's a
fairly
lot.
good distance. So she would run a mile, and during the race, she would walk part of it and just talk to her friend. And then at the end, she'd be like, "Oh, I could have done better." I say, "Okay, well, what could you have done better?" Because I don't want to say, "Hey, you could have done better," but she's saying that, right? And if she's saying that, then I want her to truly take a step back and be like, "Okay, well, how could you have done better? What could you have done differently?" And and then I tell her, I'm like, "Okay, well, that's a cross country race. What else in life is something that you could have done better at?" And I don't actually ask her to, but I just want her to think about it. And then I'm like, and there's going to be other times in your life where you could have done better. And what could you have done better? Always be asking that. So that might be a little bit hard as a parent, but I think those are important lessons to learn when you're young so that you can constantly reflect on your life and say, okay, what could I have done differently to have more closely met my goals, more closely met my ideals and values. And I think that's where a lot of us miss life, is not questioning ourselves. Yes, we might beat ourselves up, but beating yourself up, that's not going to do any good. Asking questions, that's going to be where you learn and grow.
Right. So as opposed to saying, "I'm so terrible, I've done so wrong,"
Yeah.
saying, "Where could I improve this? And why do I feel I want to do this differently?"
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. 100%.
that
And I
makes
think those are
sense.
two very different things.
Right. How do you think about setting those goals? You help a lot of people think about goals,
Yeah.
but a
Yeah.
lot of people struggle knowing what to pursue.
Right. Well, hang
Do you
on.
have a
Bend over here and grab you something. Hang on. And this is not, I'm not meaning to make a shameless plug,
no,
uh,
please.
but this is, I don't know if you can see that, but it's called the Ultimate Goal Setting Journal. And I put this together. It's literally a journal. And in the front of this thing, the very first page is you write down what your someday or one day goals are going to be, like literally what your ultimate dreams are. And then there's nothing that's too far out of reach. Like, I want to be an astronaut and go to the moon. Okay, write that down. If you want to be a millionaire, write that down. And it's got it broken down into personal, physical, relationship, professional, and financial. And then I in the beginning I say, add something else if you want to, like spiritual. If you have a spiritual goal, write that down. And then you take that and then you break it down. Okay, well, what do you need to do in the next 10 years in order to accomplish those someday goals? And then it goes to the next page. What do you need to do in the 5 years? What do you need to do this year? And it goes all the way down to literally what you need to do today. And then it's got 365 pages of what you need to do today to eventually accomplish your larger goals. Now, I'm not trying to say buy this book, but that's the methodology behind it. Like getting to your goals is putting your big, what do they call it? Big, hairy, audacious goals, the BHAGs, in front of you, outlining what that looks like. And when you do look at those, I'm like, man, I'm never going to write a book. Man, I'm never going to be a SEAL. There's no way I'm ever going to be a millionaire. And then when you look at that and you're like, okay, well, how can I break that down into more digestible, doable things? You break it down to what I need to do today. Well, in order to write a book, I need to write for, 30 minutes, right? That's not that hard. You can do that. If I want to be, a marathon runner, I can go out and jog for 2 miles today so that, 3 weeks from now I can run 5 miles, and, half a year from now I can run 26 miles. You
What
break it
about
down.
something
Yeah.
abstract of like, I want to be a good father or a good
Mm,
husband? How do you
Great
break that
question.
down?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I mean, yes, it may be abstract, but I think you can break it down into objective things, right? So, how do kids spell love? Time. So maybe you want to spend more time with your kids, more quality time, not time that you're sitting there with them, but you're on your cell phone. It's time that you're actually with them, being present. So, write down, maybe spend 20 minutes alone with each kid, doing what they want to do, spending time with them that's valuable to them, listening to them, right? A lot of us also may spend time with our kids, but we're out in la la land, thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow, thinking about what we need to do for our business or whatever. So it's not just physically being present with them and staying away from your cell phones, but it's also like being engaged in what it is they're doing. So I think you can take those abstract, somewhat subjective things and break them down into less abstract, objective goals. Put a number to it. If you can put a number to it, and initially it's easier to meet, and then those numbers, over time, they may disappear, and it just say spend time with the kids. It may not be 10 minutes, but you start with something that's manageable and measurable. For me, that's how I break down both the real goals and the abstract goals.
Right. And also, you're making the choice there where you're saying, yes, my business is important to me, but my family is more important to me in this time. And so I could spend this other hour on my business, but I am designating for myself that I will spend this time with my family.
Right. Right. And this is another thing I've just recently started doing based on another coach's recommendation is I've got this card deck, and it's the Live Your Values deck. So we all say that we have these ideals and values, but if you really sit somebody down, you're like, hey, what are your ideals and values? Very few people are able to say, hey, these are my top 3 values.
Right.
These are my top 3 ideals. These are my top 3 priorities. And often, if they do say that these are my top 3, you're like, okay, so what makes those your top 3, and how are you living those top 3? That's when people are like, ugh, I'm not living those goals. I'm not living those priorities. I'm not living those values. So that can be a real eye-opening exercise to do for yourself, for your listeners, is try to write down what your priorities are or your values are and see if you're truly living them. Because I think that's where true happiness and fulfillment comes from, is living in line with your ideals and values and your priorities. A lot of us say our values are God, country, family, or maybe something else. But then we're out, spending time on social media or watching movies late at night and not spending time with our family and not making time for them or not making time for getting into the word, whatever that, whatever your spiritual beliefs are, you're not spending time actually working on that. And I think that's where, when there's a disconnect between how you truly live and what you say your ideals and values are, there's always going to be this sense of failure. But when you can line them up, that's when you're going to have a sense of fulfillment in your life.
Right. And I feel that's also the hardest part of goal setting, where you might ask someone, what is your goal? If you could do anything, and they say, oh, I would travel the world. And that might be their pleasure seeking, nice moment, sounds fun.
Yeah.
But if you ask them what their 3 values were, it's probably not relating to traveling the world.
Right.
And getting them to think about what their values, because it's hard to know. And do you have a process by, if you can't list it off, how you can actually establish, of all of the things that are important, these are the 3 that are most important? How can someone do that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this card deck is really helpful on that. And then I've got a practice that I learned basically through doing it myself, is mind mapping. And I did it through a book a workbook that I was going through. You basically take a piece of paper, grab a pen, draw a circle in the center, and you write, what's important to you. Just 1 or 2 words. Nothing. You don't write like the whole list. You just write down 1 or 2 words. And I wrote down, for my exercise, I wrote down family and leadership. That was it. And then around that first circle, then you draw maybe another 10 circles. And like, okay, related to family and leadership, what is important to you? So, time with my kids was important. Learning more about leadership, constant growth, blah, blah, blah. Bottom line is you draw another bunch of circles and fill those in. And then around those, you do the same thing until eventually you have this outer layer of circles. And you look through them and you're like, okay, what's common about all these? And what's different? Okay, well, I see that I have a desire to serve others. And how do I want to serve others? I want to teach them to be better leaders, better versions of themselves, these kinds of things. And you're like, oh, well, and that's tied to being a better father, being a better husband. Oh, well, here's family. Family is important. So I think those types of exercises, whether it's this value deck or something similar, bottom line is you need to sit quietly with yourself and do some contemplative work, reflect on who you are, not what you are, not what it is you do, but who you are, what you want out of life. I think those are important things that a lot of us don't do enough of. And that can be sometimes scary to do, but it's important to do, again, so that you're living in line with your ideals and values.
For you, when you left the Navy and you had to redefine your whole life, what was that process? How long did it take? How many hours did you spend thinking about, what are my goals? What's important to me? Where should I spend my time? Like, was it, a week and you come back and you're like, okay, or it was 2 years? Like, how did that?
Closer to the latter. So, yeah, funny story. I decided in 2018 that I wanted to retire in 2020. And one of my former bosses, sat me down for coffee. He's like, okay, so, what do you want to do in 2 years? What do you want to do when you retire? I was like, boss, I don't know. I got 2 years to figure that out. I'll figure it out. He's like, no, man, that last 2 years is going to go really fast. You need to try start figuring it out now. I said, okay, well, how can I do that? And he said, well, I want you to sign up for a couple of classes, different, specifically organizations, foundations that run these 2 classes. The Commit Foundation is a military transition program that I forget the name of the class that they run, but it's essentially discovering your purpose, like identifying your why. Wow. And the same thing with another program called the Honor Foundation. Now, the Commit Foundation does it over 2 or 3 days. The Honor Foundation does it over several weeks. And I did both of them. And I did that quiet internal reflection while I was going through those and for time afterwards. And yeah, I found out that some of the bright and shiny objects that I thought I was going to chase after I left the military. Private equity, commercial real estate, venture capital, all these different things. They weren't what I wanted to do. I was chasing them because I thought that's what I should do. But doing these classes was very helpful. But really, bottom line, what they pointed me towards was figuring it out on my own. Like sitting in a class, great. I get the tools, but once I have the tools, I have to go and use them, and I have to do that work on my own. Not talking to a friend and my friend telling me what they're doing, and me might have, oh, cool, that sounds good. Maybe I'll do that. I had to sit down and do the work on my own. Not saying that you can't get support while you're doing this work on your own, but don't let others' opinions, their ideals and values sway your desires. You have to figure that piece out on your own.
And you finished both classes.
I
Do you
do.
walk away still thinking, okay, I'm going to do private equity? Or
No, I walked away knowing that I was going to teach mindfulness and meditation. And I went and I had a dinner, funny enough, at the end of one of these classes with a commercial realtor. He and I were having dinner based on the fact that I thought that I wanted to go into commercial real estate. And he was like, okay, so what do you want to do in commercial real estate? I was like, well, I've actually changed my mind. I don't want to do that. I want to teach mindfulness and meditation. And he was like, John, there's no money in that. And he's not completely wrong. There's not a whole lot of money in it. But where I make my payments, if you will, is knowing that I'm making positive effect on other people's lives again. So yes, I did go through those classes. Yes, there was still a piece of me that's like, oh, there would be a lot more money made in other sectors, industries. But this serves others, but it simultaneously serves me. So again, coming back to it's not all altruistic, but it's good work.
For sure. Was there a moment in the class where it hit you and you were like, whoa, I thought I wanted this, but it's not really what I want?
Yeah. There was during the Honor Foundation, we did this. I don't know if you're familiar with Simon Sinek's Find Your Why. Find Your Why is an exercise that's created by Simon Sinek because he's found that the most successful people and the most successful organizations are people that discover why they do what they do instead of saying, okay, well, this is what we do. This is how we do it. Oh, and this is why we do it. He said, start with why. And in order to start with why, you have to find your why. And we did this exercise in the Honor Foundation where there's 3 of us sitting around a table, and we share some very raw stories about what happened in our lives and what we did during these particular things. And then when we sit back and reflect upon that, it becomes almost abundantly clear what your why is. Now, I'm kind of going back on what I just said by saying, hey, do it on your own. We did it. We did do this initial discussion with others and basically tell 3 important stories of your life, 3 what we consider to be formative periods or formative events in our lives. But then you have to go back and reflect upon, okay, well, why did I tell those stories? What it is about those stories that kind of jump out? What about those stories are aligned with my ideals and values? And so that's where the work on your own is done. But yeah, that was a huge enlightening moment. And then at the end, so there's a kind of play on words talking about finding your why, WHY. We do a whiteboard discussion, WHYTE board discussion with one of the class facilitators. And he spends like an hour and a half whiteboarding your entire thing. At the very end, he comes up with one sentence. I don't remember what my sentence was to this day, but it's one sentence that's basically says, I am Jon Macaskill and I do X for Y so that Z. And I was like, whoa, that right there, boom, that's it. And I
So he's interviewing you for an hour and a half? Like he's
no, he's not interviewing you. he has like what you've written in all these different exercises along the way. He's talking to you about, hey, this is what I heard in this. This is what I heard in that. This is what I think. And then he says, okay, would you agree with this statement? Yes. Okay. From this statement, and I mean, I'll have to say, because I videoed it. I was like, I got to video this so I remember it. Maybe I'll have to send it to you down the road or something. But it's yeah, it's an incredible discussion. The whiteboard discussion at the end, WHYTE board discussion. Why? Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's powerful because it forces you to be vulnerable, where you're not being performative at all, where it's the essence of who you are and who you have been, and maybe a chance to change pieces of those. Like, that sounds immensely, immensely powerful and can use those people at
Crazy.
all stages of life.
Yeah. And, you know, you don't have to have somebody walk you through a WHYT board discussion, but you can do, again, a lot of that on your own. The workbook that I did, it has an associated book called Designing Your Life. And that workbook was tremendous, doing that on my own, doing a lot of that work on my own. Again, I teach mindfulness and meditation, and a lot of that can come up in a meditation when you're sitting down and you're being quiet with your thoughts, not pushing against them, and reflecting on, okay, why am I thinking that? Why am I feeling this particular emotion? I think those are important things that a lot of us don't do enough of.
Out of curiosity, how many people went through the class with you and they told you after, like, wow, what a waste of time? Like, I'd never do that again.
Yeah. So the Commit Foundation, 3 days out here in Colorado Springs. We were at the Olympic Training Center. I don't know. We must have had 25 people in that class. Not a single person said, hey, this was a tremendous waste of time. They all walked away with important lessons. And the Honor Foundation, I don't know, we must have had 70 in, and we started in, it must have been February in 2020, maybe a little bit before that. And then March of 2020 hit. So, you know, COVID-19 we were in an in-person cohort initially, and then we had to pivot quickly to a virtual cohort. So there was a little bit of change because doing things face to face, this type of vulnerability, it was, I think, much more powerful in person. But once we finished, everybody said the whole experience was very powerful, and nobody walked away saying, oh yeah, that was a complete waste of my time.
Wow. It shows just spending the time to think about yourself, which with life being so busy and so much going on, spending good time, not 10 minutes or an hour, hours to really think about who you are has huge, huge dividends.
Yeah. And it's not something that, you know, I don't think you do it and then you arrive at this, you know, revelation. You're like, oh, well, now I'm good. I never have to do this kind of work again. Not at all. I still do this work. That's why I've got that journal over there. You know, I wrote it for myself. Again, the altruistic side was not really there. I wanted to write it for myself, to drive myself and keep myself accountable. Yeah, there's constant work that has to be done, constant growth that has to be gone through, and reflecting, so that you, again, can live in line with your ideals and values. And I know I keep saying that because it's important to me.
I'm sure meditation is a huge part of that work. Is there a meditative practice, a mindfulness practice that you find really beautiful in your life that maybe you do weekly or monthly or daily, and it just hits you in a different way than other things you do?
Yeah, there's a type of meditation called meta meditation, and meta meditation is a loving kindness meditation. What's called a loving kindness meditation, and that's where you visualize giving love and kindness to others. And the part that really hits me every time is you visualize somebody that you love, right? And you imagine giving them love and kindness. That's easy. You imagine somebody that you have neutral feelings for, you know, somebody that bags your groceries or something. Like you've seen them, you don't really know them, but you've seen them. And you imagine giving them love and kindness. That's easy. The next two parts are really difficult. You imagine somebody that you have like challenges with, perhaps even don't like, perhaps even feel that you hate them. And I know that's a strong word, but that's a lot of people feel that they hate others. And you bring this person or one of those people into your mind, visualize them, and then visualize sending them love and kindness. And that love and kindness comes in, you know, I hope that you do not have discomfort in your life. I hope that you have everything that you want in your life. I'm sending you love. That's difficult. And then the most difficult one, to me anyhow, is you visualize yourself. And you visualize sending yourself love and kindness and asking that discomfort be removed from your life. That's tough. And that hits in a different way. And I try to do that regularly. So for your listeners, if you're looking for a meditation that will, over time, once you've gotten used to meditating, because this is not something that you want to jump into day one, maybe establish your meditation practice. But once you have that established, jump into a metta or a loving kindness meditation. It will change your life over time for sure.
Wow. And for people who are just about to jump in, who say, yes, I get meditation is so beneficial. All of my friends tell me about it, but I don't sleep enough. How can you tell me to wake up 10 minutes earlier to meditate? What would you say?
Yeah, well, I recommend that they do a time audit. A lot of people say that they're so busy they don't have time for this. But again, it comes back to priorities. What are you truly living as your priorities? If you say that you don't have enough time to, spend time with your kids, but you're doom scrolling through social media or you're checking the same email 17 times, you're wasting a lot of precious time. I will also say that those who feel that they are not getting enough sleep and they can't meditate, sometimes that's true, 100%. But I would say more often than not, again, what's happening is they're binging Netflix late into the night because they're not prioritizing sleep, or they feel that meditation is a waste of time. It may feel like that initially. The first week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks, it might feel like, man, I'm not getting anything out of this. But eventually what's going to happen is your brain is going to physiologically rewire itself. And with that, you can actually be more productive at work, more focused, more present at work with your friends, with your family, with yourself. You can show up completely different for yourself. And with that, you can have more energy. So you may even get 10, 15, 20 minutes less sleep, but you will have more energy for that meditation, and everything else that you do, you're going to show up differently. So yeah, it may hurt, just like going to the gym, right? Hey, you got to wake up 30 minutes earlier to get a workout in. Oh man, there's no way I can wake up 30 minutes early. Well, try it. Do it. Yeah, it may suck for the first week, 2 weeks, 5 weeks, but then eventually you're going to start having more energy and you're going to get into that habit. And getting up 30 minutes earlier to get to the gym or 30 minutes earlier to get your exercise downstairs in your basement, it's going to become part of who you are. And that, again, can be life-changing.
And do you think that for meditation, is it easiest just to start focusing on your breath, or do you have like intro that you would recommend this is how you break in and this is what you should do for those 5 painful weeks?
Yeah, well, I mean, I do, funny enough, I do have a 21-day mindfulness and meditation introduction course online, and I can share that with you to put in the notes. Try that out if that works for you. If not, I recommend starting with guided meditation. Don't try to jump into an hour-long meditation. Try to do 2-3 minutes at a time. Find something short that you can stick to for those people who are like, I can't wake up 10 minutes earlier. Well, wake up 3 minutes earlier. And then try to implement some meditation throughout your day. It doesn't have to be 10, 15, 20 minutes. It could be literally 3 minutes. When you pull into the parking lot at work, meditate for 3 minutes sitting there. Instead of pulling up your phone and looking at emails and social media, meditate for 3 minutes. As you do that more consistently through time, you're going to be able to do the 5-minute, 10-minute, 45-minute meditations. And it does not take 45 minutes to change your day, your way of living. supposedly the golden number is if you can get to where you are regularly doing, consistently doing 13 minutes a day of meditation, you are rewiring your brain.
It's
And with
powerful.
that, yeah, with that, you start to see yourself differently. You start to show up differently for your friends, your family, your colleagues, and yourself.
Was there a tangible physical thing that meditating improved for you where I used to be able to do X, I meditated for 6 months, I could do X plus?
I mean, I don't know that I could say a physical thing. I think I'm probably more disciplined in getting to the gym and things like that, because I know that there are benefits there, and some of those benefits have been echoed to me in meditations. But the biggest change, I think, has been how I show up for my family. Sure, there's still times when I get distracted. I'm still a human being, but I am present with my kids. I know when I'm being on my phone too much, and if I don't catch that, they will. They'll point it out to me. And yeah, I think the biggest thing is taking a look at what we call an internal selfie. And the internal selfie can be, if you kind of imagine taking a phone and literally taking a selfie of your mind and the status of your mind, your body and the status of your body. Like, am I tense? Am I physically feeling this anxiety in me somewhere? And then finally, the internal selfie of your nervous system. Like, is it kind of buzzing or is it calm? And you take that proverbial internal selfie before a meditation, and then you take it again afterwards, basically just taking stock of where you're at. But I also offer that if you take that internal selfie before you meditate the first time, and you take an internal selfie at the 8-week mark, you're going to see, or at least feel, a difference in how your body, your mind, and your nervous system are in that selfie. So yeah, I don't know that I necessarily have a physical thing. I still feel tension physically in my body sometimes, and with time that can ease. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is the mental and emotional changes.
For sure. One big piece for me on meditation is gratefulness.
Oh, sure.
And I'm curious if you have something that has really struck you that maybe people in their everyday life don't usually think about, but maybe not every time you think about it. But when you think about it, you're sometimes able to get to the point of, wow, I really feel deeply grateful for this. Not like just the thought of, oh, I'm grateful for that, but like it touches you in a deeper way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the practice in and of itself, I'm deeply grateful for. Deeply grateful for the fact that I've been practicing regularly for coming up on 8 years, and what it's done for me in my life, my family. I'm a better husband, better father for it. So I think I'm deeply grateful for the practice and what
And
it's
you
done.
feel that, like you think about that and it hits you.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't say that I'm deeply thankful for my spirituality, my religious beliefs, my foundation in Christianity. If I didn't have that combined, I think the two go hand in hand. Whatever your spiritual beliefs are, I believe your spiritual beliefs can be strengthened through mindfulness and meditation. So I think I'm thankful for having the two together in making me a better husband, father, friend, colleague, those types of things.
Wonderful. John, is there anything you would want listeners to hear that we haven't covered so far?
Yeah, I think I was on another podcast recently that said if I could tell my 10-year-old self one thing, what would it be? And I said, I think I would tell that 10-year-old self the same thing that I would tell this 47-year-old self, and that's to take things less seriously. I think we get wrapped up in life and taking it too seriously, trying to, again, I mean, I showed you the goal book. Yes, it's very easy to get wrapped up in achieving those goals, but sometimes you just got to let go and enjoy life, enjoy the small moments. And that's another thing that I am thankful for is those small moments with my kids, with my wife. I mean, hell, with my dog. Sometimes, just having some fun. So have more fun. Don't take things so seriously.
and let yourself go in some ways. You don't have to be every moment there's a pressure to do something, and that's a piece of it.
Yes, you got to give yourself some grace, man. Give yourself some grace.
Absolutely. And how can people be in touch with you?
Yeah, probably the easiest thing is to text the word mindful, MINDFUL, to 33777. And that'll take you to my social media, my email. It basically just takes you to a Linktree site that has different things on it that you can check out that have to do with me, including that 21-day mindfulness class.
Amazing. Jon, the name of the podcast is The Possible. It's about things which weren't guaranteed, but you either worked hard for, you cared a lot about, you put a lot of energy, effort in your life. Is there something that speaks to you in this story of the sense of the possible, that life is full of possibility?
Yeah, I mean, so I was married previously. I was married for 10 years, did not have children with my former wife. And now I have children. My ex-wife and I were both told individually that we could not have children, that physiologically we were unable to have children. I don't know if that's the right word, but anyhow, we were not able to have children. Since we've both gone our separate ways, we both remarried, happily remarried, and we both have kids.
Wow.
So I would say that I was told was impossible has been, in fact, proved possible. And I'm so very thankful for it. As much as being a father is the hardest thing I've ever done, being a father is also the best thing I've ever done. So I'm very thankful for that possibility in my life.
Wow. So turning the impossible into the possible. Thank you, Jon.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.